workplace, we're finding the humanity that isn't in the workplace but needs to be is really, really fundamental to this topic of purpose in the workplace. And that's because I don't think that purpose can really exist if there's no humanity in the workplace. And even if the mission of the organization is great, even if you're doing good things, if there's no humanity or there isn't enough of it in the workplace, then I don't think purpose can exist, at least not to the extent that it needs to. And I think that we're going to be talking about why this is the case. We're going to be talking about practical things we can do to disrupt this humanless status quo. But before we get to that, I just want to contextualize this a little bit by talking about why this is so important. And the first reason, the first case we made is a humanistic case about employees, that if work is to be a functional part of a functional life, then there needs to be humanity at work. We can't be bringing people into these rooms for 8 to 12 hours a day and suck the life out of them. That just doesn't work. I think it's a pretty compelling argument. I doubt many people here disagree with that. The next one is the business case, and I know at least one of the panelists is going to be a little miffed at me for bringing this up, but I do think it's important to note that even if the humanistic argument is not compelling to you, even if you're all about the money, it's good business to be good people, and it's good business to have humanity and purpose in the workplace. There are tons of data showing that purpose-driven companies outperform purely financially driven ones in the stock market in terms of revenue growth. They do better in terms of employee engagement, productivity, retention, all these important business metrics. And so even if you're not motivated by actually giving a shit about your people, which you probably should, then it just is good business. And then there's the third case, which is the one that I actually think is the most important, and the thing that motivates me more than the previous two. And that is that we need organizations to be more humane to ensure that the impact they have in the world is more humane. We live in a time when it's never been easier for good people with good intentions to fuck up the people and the things that they're trying to protect. Because good intentions don't protect us from that. Technology is powerful, it's available to almost everyone. We have billions of people who just need an internet connection to change the world, and we have organizations full of good people who at least would profess to share our values, and yet the things that these organizations have done to the world don't seem to always line up with those values. So the reason for that, I think, in the public narrative is a bit wrong. I mean, recent events, specifically around companies like Facebook and Google, have resulted in a somewhat unprecedented torrent of criticism that's being leveled at technology companies and their executives, and so many of these criticisms are valid and are starting conversations that we should have been having for a while. But the narrative around them is all wrong. It's not just that there are a few bad apples, and it's not just that there are a few executives who are running their organizations wrong, such that they end up doing bad things. It's that the culture that surrounds all these companies is a bit wrong. It's that we've gotten so used to just not having humanity in the workplace that we've forgotten that that's just how things need to be. We've sort of accepted this as the new status quo. And the difference between, the good cultures down to bad cultures might not be as significant as we think when it comes to humanity, because we've just absorbed this idea that humanity doesn't belong there, that when we show up to work, we leave some of our humanity with security and pick it back up on the way out. And so we can talk about regulation, we can talk about all these solutions for these companies to prevent them from having a negative impact on the world, but the first and most important line of defense, as I see it, is the people themselves. So that if an executive or someone in a meeting puts forward an idea, maybe it's unethical, maybe it has good intentions, but it could easily result in some kind of abuse or result in harming the people they're trying to help, someone needs to stand up and say, hey, this is wrong, we shouldn't be doing this, we need to do something else. And if that doesn't happen, if they're not able to dissuade the people with power in that meeting, then they go around, they try and build consensus and try and change the status quo. But if we're suppressing humanity in the workplace, if we're telling people and allowing people to believe that they don't need to be fully present in the workplace, then we're kind of suppressing that critical line of defense to ensure that organizations have the right kind of impact on the world. And so that, to me, especially because of these recent events that are highlighting how necessary this is the most important reason for having humanity in the workplace. And I know that sounds like a bit of a doomsday situation and it's full of negativity, but it's not, because we can actually do something about this. The purpose movement in organizations is growing. More and more people are coming around to these ideas. And I think individuals in organizations, whether they're leaders in title, whether they're founders, executives, directors, or just frontline employees, there are ways that we can actually solve this, disrupt the status quo, and try and make our organizations more human so that the impact they have in the world can be more humane. And so, without any further ado, I would like to introduce our panelists. First, we have Ashley Westbrook. She is the Director of Talent and HR for Tiger Spike in the Americas. They're a fantastic digital product consultancy. Then we have Priyanka Gupta. VP of People for Able2, which is a well-funded startup that does life coaching and online therapy, if I recall. And then last but not least, we have this man, Adam Schorr. He is actually my dad. And not only has he never spoken at one of my events, he's never even been to one of my events. So, terrible father, obviously, but he's making up for it now. And we've spoken about things at length. So this should be great. So I know I just introduced you, but to build more ethos, I would love it if you could brag about some cool stuff that you've done, something that makes you awesome. Yeah.
Is this on?
I don't know.
Hi, is this on?
Yes.
Great. I'm Priyanka. I'm an engineering bachelor's. Before I did my master's in HR. Moved from India 10 years ago. So this is a really big year for me, completing a decade in New York. Seen many industries, seen many countries. Currently, I'm in a company called Able2. We provide behavioral health solutions to recovering patients through a network of licensed therapists and behavioral coaches. That's why there's a green. I swear I didn't match it with my dress, but it's my first ever experience working in a company with such a strong mission. I'm heading their people function, and it's just a very exciting growth stage.
Hi, my name is Ashley. I think I had a very untraditional route to kind of get into talent and HR. Like most people say, you kind of fell into it. I was actually a dance and theater major in college, Broadway musicals and all that fun, all that jazz. And kind of found my way into recruitment, found my way into more of a broader HR world. Kind of worked in corporate America for about 8 years. Hated it, loved kind of coming to more of a smaller organization. Tigerspike has been very unique because we're a global company, but we don't have a very large headcount. So we're currently sit at about 320 employees spread across 10 offices, pretty much across the globe. So when we talk about humanity in the workplace and people in the workplace, a lot of nuanced challenges that we get to experience, I think a little different from some other companies, just due to kind of all the locations that we kind of have. So interesting topic, super passionate about this, and looking forward to having a conversation.
I was wondering how long the Oedipal complex issues would come at, and apparently right at the beginning. So this is going to be entertaining. So I've spent, the past 20 years or so working at some big companies and some small ones, doing strategy and marketing and culture and all sorts of stuff. But I guess the seminal moment in my career was having a really shitty job at a company I really couldn't stand that has always won the best place to work award for some amazing reason. So they kept winning this award, and yet I didn't know a single person there that was happy. But I had this really genius epiphany. He told me to brag that, and it's going to sound crazy, but I was like, I don't think work has to suck. Who decided that work has to suck? And next I thought, okay, if there's a good reason for it to suck, maybe that's okay. If we'll make more money, if we'll be more productive, if we'll produce better innovations in the world, maybe that's a price we should all pay. But it doesn't actually work that way at all. I mean, all the studies that Amos referred to, companies are more innovative and more productive and financially better off when they're more human and when they're driven by some purpose other than just making money. So I'm like, what the fuck? Why are we all making organizations that just suck? So that propelled me into a bit of a career change, and I ended up doing more consulting on that and culture. And about 2 years ago, I started my own company, which is why I get to be green, because I'm a solopreneur, and so I am my own boss and my own worker. And so I've decided, we've decided that we have a wonderful culture, and we're very happy, and we'd love to share that with you.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So everyone here has a sticker on their name tag. We ran out of orange ones, which means that the color count might be a little bit skewed. So how about we do a show of hands? Who would have chosen the green sticker? Just as a refresher, green means your organization is doing a great job, your culture is amazing, full of humanity. Orange is pretty good, but it needs some work. And then pink is get me the fuck out of here, help me now, please. So raise your hand if you fall into the green category. Okay, I'm predicting a lot of orange. Who's orange? Okay, and who's pink?
Be honest. Be honest.
we have some people who are in the recruiting space. You might want to give them your
Take note. Take note. Oh, also, before we get started, we should probably give huge thanks to Fueled, who is the venue sponsor, and they provided lovely pizza. And they're a green place to work. Although I see someone who works here who has an orange, so that might be a little questionable. But no, hopefully there'll be help. And then we also have a liquor sponsor, Spring 44, which provided the gin and vodka for the delicious cocktails. I don't know, are we pointing to, Bree doesn't work there. Why are we gesturing to her? Okay, she made that happen, so claps for Bree. Okay, and now back to the topic. So we had mostly oranges. Are there any questions that we want to ask the people in these categories? Just to tune in with the audience. Someone orange who wants to, who's orange and who's willing to talk to us? Raise your hand. Okay. So tell us about the humanity in your organization.
Sure. I work with a nonprofit. We teach students music production and DJing throughout the city. I think we do a really, really great job. I think the thing is we are really in the startup phase, really reforming policies as we go along, reforming the culture as we go along. So we're not really finding the problems until we hit them. So really trying to find out like whether it's training, whether it's like just being, I think we're intentional about making sure it's a really great place to work, and I like working there every day, but there's still things that come up with gender dynamics, there's still things that come up with race dynamics just because of the structure that we live in. So we try really hard to address it, but you know, some things don't show up till they show up. So I think that's kind of where we are. And then we also go into spaces, specifically my role, like I teach in corporate workshops and professional workshops, so we're going to try and make their workplaces better. So how can I also have tools to help them communicate better?
Raina, I'm calling on you next.
Can I just bring the mic over? I can't hear you. Here you go. Thank you so
That.
much. There you go.
Okay, so you want to know why we are okay that we work?
Yeah. Tell us about your.
All right, so I work at TransferTech. We're a global language and technology company, so we're a B2B translations company, and we provide other technology solutions. And I think that we pride ourselves on our people because we don't have any tangible products. Our people are our products because we provide services and solutions. And so our people are our best asset. And I think the parts of the business who provide the most service really feel that culture, the culture that, you know, I do recruiting, but I also help with org development, company culture, employee engagement. And so when I'm telling that story, I feel that culture. I work at the headquarters. But what we see is in some of our smaller offices that we don't touch or reach as much, where I may have helped to recruit them or get them on board, and I check in with them 3 or 6 months later, and they're kind of like lost, you know, don't know who to go to for certain things. Simple things where I'm like, well, we can fix that for you. And they just don't know that, or offices that we visit when we go out to career fairs or just to do office visits to do a culture check. And they're like, you know, what's going on with Phil? He's our CEO. You know, does he hate us? And I'm like, no, why would you think that? And so what I would like to do is make sure that that culture trickles down evenly to all of our divisions. So we do have the culture, it's there, but it's not reaching everyone.
Got it. That's great. Well, not great in that sense, but that was a great comment. I'm sure Ashley, you'll probably have some stuff to talk about that later, given that Tiger's Pike has lots of small outposts. So I think before we get to more practical stuff, let's define what we mean by humanity in the workplace.